Yes, perfect. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to With Love Shay. We are on episode 4, and today it is all about relationships, platonic, romantic, corporate, school. We want everybody to know that relationships have their ups, their downs, but we're not bitter. We're just hurt. And I have a special guest with me, Imani Lane, and we're going to talk about it. Hi, Imani. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's get started. But before we do, for all the new listeners, tell them a little bit about yourself.
As you already said, my name is Imani Lane. I own a business called Black Girl Blessed. I make handmade earrings and paint boxes and stuff like that. I am getting married in September
Oh,
to such an amazing partner. He's the best. Got that going on. I'm a nanny. I'm from the DMV area. I used to be a teacher. I'm an artist.
all around busy mama.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we just want to jump right in, right? Because a lot of times you hear the term bitter. And while there may be some truth to that, we know that a lot of times it's just a misconception, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear the word bitter as it relates to relationships, what does that mean to you?
I feel like when I hear bitter, I hear that someone is angry and kind of like holding that anger, and exhibiting that anger through action, or even just expressing in that how they express themselves. I think just talking about like the title of the episode and comparing it to hurt. Like hurt is the feelings that you feel, but bitter is like how you discuss that pain. Like, are you speaking from a place of anger? Or are you speaking from a place of like, hey, this is what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Holding on to that thing and like not really trying to move through it and
Mm-hmm.
heal from it and just continue to like move on as best as you know how.
Mm-hmm.
Experienced.
Awesome, awesome. Have you ever been labeled bitter before?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I've definitely had conversation about like letting go, hurt, and pain.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody called me bitter, they've never called me bitter to my face.
Okay, that part. That's the part. Like if you said it, I didn't know about it. But yeah, that term it's always been one of those things that I'm like, really? Like, do you even know what I've gone through to even label me as bitter? Like, really? Nevertheless, do you think women internalize their hurt more than men or vice versa?
So it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
Women are allowed to express their emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't usually have those outlets in those spaces. So what they're doing is they are literally internalizing and taking that stuff in and not expressing it. Whereas you hear women be more vocal, and that's not the same for everybody, but you hear women be more vocal. So like
Mm-hmm.
he started going to therapy and started realizing like, oh, I hold on to a lot of stuff, like, and I deal with all of my problems and my issues in my mind, because I don't think that space has ever been provided for him to kind of just be open and like feel his feelings straight out. But
Mm-hmm.
I grew up that way. Like I was allowed to feel my feelings. Like my mom would tell me it was okay to cry. Now it depends on the moment, but I was allowed to express my emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and not be seen as soft and less than, and all these other things that I feel like we do to men that stops them from being able to explain or express themselves. I don't know. And then because I'm not a man, I don't know if they really let stuff go or if they just
Mm-hmm.
act like let stuff go. Whereas women, it comes up in everything. This
Right.
trip, now I remember. This
Right.
happened, I remember, and I'm feeling that hurt all over again. So
Right. Right. That's funny that you say that, growing up in a space where you're allowed to express your emotions, because a lot of times, that's the ideal situation for women, or that's what men think like, oh, you're a woman, so you're naturally going to be expressive. For me, I had military parents, so we don't really cry. I mean, you can cry, but it's almost to a sense of go ahead, get it out the way, move on to the next. So that's how I grew up. Like, okay, I can't really let people see me hurt because that is a sign of weakness, right? So I always internalized. As I got older, I realized that's not healthy.
Yeah.
That's not healthy for me. That's not healthy for the people I'm around. As a mom now, I always tell my children, cry. It's okay. Even with my son, you need to take a moment, go ahead and do that. But once you're done, let's hop back and figure out what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
So
that experience of like, when you're done crying, be done.
Right.
But, here's this pocket of space. Like, and I feel like it came to it with an extent. Like, I couldn't just cry about everything. Like, if I'm crying because my pencil broke, like, get it together. We not crying about that. Get up.
Right.
Life goes on. But when I experienced like true hurt and pain, like my mom was that safe space where it was like, it's okay to be like that. You're hurting. It's okay. Like,
yeah,
feel those feelings, but we do have to move through those feelings. We can't just stay there. So
awesome. That's awesome. Perfect. So the next question I have is, why do you feel men shut down when they have been hurt or they are hurting? You kind of touched on that a little bit, but what do you think the overall reason is, if any?
I feel like it's a way to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back to my fiance, we were talking one day and he was talking about how he was taught, like, you don't let people see that they hurt you. Like, you don't that satisfaction, that gratification to see like, oh, I did this and now you're sad, I hurt you. Like,
yeah.
And I feel like a lot of men operate in that space of like, oh, I could just move on, or you're not gonna, have me out here crying, or show you that, that really got to me. Because again, there's a lack of safe space for men to express their feelings and emotions. And so with that lack of safe space, what else can you do? Like, the only thing you can do is pretend like nothing happened, shut down, not talk about it, get angry, like whatever it is, where it's not like showing I'm hurt, I'm sad, this affected me in some way, shape, or form. It's like they're taught to just keep moving, just whatever, blow past it, keep moving. Men do what they're supposed to do, and they're just kind of being taught to like brush those things off. So a lot of times I feel like that's why you'll get men that just kind of like shut down and they're just like, oh, I don't care. And you have that breakup and it's like, I'm hurt and I'm crying and like he's all good and he's posting it. No, that man is hurt. He is.
Yes. Listen, I had a breakup like that. I'm like, wait a minute. I know I was good, right? So I'm sitting over here like crying and hurt, and I'm looking at he living his best life, and I'm like, we were together, right? Like, what's going on? Your bounce back is real strong. So yeah.
Instagram, there was an Instagram post where it was like showing how men deal with the breakup versus how women deal with the breakup. It's like the woman is crying and going like a couple weeks later, sis is good. She got a haircut, a new hair color, a new outfit. She going out, she stepping out. The guy did that first, and then it hit him, and then he's like, sad, I don't want to go nowhere. I'm just home, whatever. Funny because I feel like, again, they're taught to kind of like push past stuff and move past it and just breathe past things that you haven't processed. That pain is going to hit you at some point.
Right.
You're going to have to deal with it. A lot of women just happen to deal with it in the moment, like when it first happened, where you kind of like get it all out. And if you're not doing that, then at some point in time, it's going to come out.
It's going to come out. That's right. It is. So that brings us to my next question. And well, technically, it kind of falls into what we were just talking about. But what is the double standard on cheating? Like, why do you feel like there's a double standard? What's up with that?
Okay, so I don't remember who I was talking to. It may have been my mom or I don't know. But I think it was my mom. The fact that choose my words.
Right. Okay. And look, our audience is split 50-50. So, look, don't make us lose any male followers.
No, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that men enter and women have to be enters. Also, women are very emotional. So when they go and cheat, a lot of times there's an emotional connection that led them there. A lot of times men are more physical. So they are going off of, she looked good, this feels good, she, stroked my ego, now I'm here. And I think that creating an emotional bond with somebody and then sleeping with them, cheating is bad all around, but it's a little worse. Like, you could have like created a relationship as opposed to like, I'm just having sex essentially. Now sex is a spiritual thing in and of itself.
Yes.
But again, when you're adding in that emotional connection, you're talking, you're getting to know each other, you're combining your spirits and all the other stuff. It's a little bit different. Now, I'm not saying that men don't do that, because there are men who talk and text and get to know and pour out their heart and their feelings, and they done created essentially a whole other relationship outside of. But I do think because men are usually, or in the times that I've known about or heard about, more physical, it's less of, I built a relationship with this person and I felt safe enough to allow them into my space and into my body and all the other stuff. Or of like, I just had a feeling, I like the way she looked at me or the way she, said whatever, and or more of a sexual thing than a emotional thing. But again, it also has to do, I feel, a lot with the fact that like, you go to other people's houses, right? Hey girl, how's it going? You go to other people's houses. You don't let everybody else in your house.
Right.
So I think that's also kind of like the difference or the double standard. And as a woman, you are being entered.
Right.
Allowing a plethora of people to, now everybody believes in their sex life differently. Some people are very free and it's that for them. And some people are a lot more conservative, and they very, very much stick by, you don't, you're very, so.
Okay, I agree with those answers. Now, my follow-up question to that is, do you think you kind of touched on it, but do you think it's worse to build that emotional connection or the physical connection? Or are they equally bad?
That emotional connection is worse.
Yeah.
Because it is not just emotion after, I think they're cute. That's surface level. But when you build an emotional bond with somebody, you build a spiritual bond with them. So you can cheat on somebody emotionally without ever taking your clothes off, without ever having sex with them, without ever kissing them. You're essentially giving your heart to somebody. You're connecting in that way. And you can connect that way spiritually as well. But it's harder to just get up and walk away when it's just physical than it is when you have poured your heart and spirit into something and you're getting to know somebody in that way. It's hard to just walk away from them. Like, you know them, you are a kindred spirit, like you. Yeah. So I definitely think that emotional cheating or building that emotional connection is, if there was a worse in cheating, then yeah.
I agree. Now, do you think there's a grievance stage after a breakup? We talked about women, we do our grievance stage, but do you feel like men actually identify with having a grieving period after a breakup? And if not, should they?
I think they do. I don't think it's something that they talk about. You have it whether you want to or not. You've been used to one thing and now you have another. So if you got Ashley and Brianna and you've been with Ashley for the past 5 years, just because you got with Brianna don't mean you won't miss Ashley's cooking or how she used to pick up your clothes when you left them somewhere or whatever. Those conversations you have to have, or even if you go somewhere, like if you're in the same city, especially if it's not a big city, you're gonna remember when you drive past y'all old spot or restaurant or where y'all used to kick it or where y'all first met or whatever it is. Like, it's going to hit you that, wow, yeah, I may have this new person, but I did have something good. And now if you had something good that you enjoyed and you were there for a while. Now if you are just kind of like bouncing around from relationship to relationship, it's, you know, less of a connection in that space. But I think that men do. I don't think that they are going to admit it openly to women unless that's like your homegirl.
Right.
Like they have those moments where they're talking to their boys, they you know, have that space where they're like, man, I really miss her, or, you know, not a whole bunch, but they may throw it in somewhere here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, I think they're more like cool with it. Like, yeah, no, you hurting. Just say it. You just say it.
You hurt. Say you hurt.
Yeah, like just I'm hurt. It's okay. It's fine. They'll never do it. So the question of the week that I posted on my social media, and I've had mixed reviews. So I'm curious to see what you say. Do you think you can actually forgive and forget?
I think it is. It is irresponsible. It's very irresponsible to forgive and forget.
Okay.
I believe in forgiving forward. But if you rob me, why would I forget that you were capable of robbing? I mean, build trust again, but no, I know what you're capable of. I know you've done it, so it's not a mystery. Like, oh, I wonder if they'll do. No, you've done this, so I do need to keep that in my mind as a possibility. Now, it is unfair to say you forgive somebody and continue to hold them to the things that they did, as a like again, or some like with getting cheated on. I choose to take you back, and I did this with an ex. He cheated on me multiple times. Should have left a long time ago, but you know, young and dumb. Anyways, hey. That whole phase of like, you're back, but I'm always worried, concerned about what you're doing, who you're with. Are you texting somebody? Are you sleeping with them? Are you, you know, doing that or whatever? In relationships, like romantic relationships, you have to make up that decision in your mind of like, am I going to trust this person? Am I going to allow this person to regain my trust and believe that they are capable of doing it and that this is just a mistake? Or do I know them to essentially be a liar, and just because they're apologizing doesn't mean that this apology isn't manipulation and they'll do it again? There's two different things. You have to know the heart of the person and also be open and willing to move on. But to forget means that I'm no longer paying attention to the signs and, you know, remembering that this is something that you're capable of. I'm no letting you know my boundaries and the things that are okay with me because I forgot that you're capable of this thing. No, hey, you know, we have this thing, you cheated, blah, blah, blah. This is what makes me comfortable. This is what triggers me. And you work together to move. But I don't believe you forget. I believe you give people grace and you move forward, but you don't forget that that's something they're capable of.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that too. Like you said, to forget is doing a disservice to yourself. I don't agree with people like you said who say, "Oh yeah, I forgive you," but every little thing is a trigger. Like, you haven't forgiven me. If everything that I do triggers you, like, let's get through that process and now really look at what the bigger issue is. So I definitely agree with you on that. Perfect. How long do you feel it takes for someone to get over hurt? Say, for instance, you were in a relationship with someone 5 years, 3 years, 3 months. Does that look different when you're getting over hurt?
No. You may put more weight on what they did because you desire for them to have been loyal because of how long you've been together. You start to heal when you start to make the effort and the decision that you're not going to continue to let this affect you and hurt you. And when you are in a relationship, you're working with that person, but when it is just you gotta put it in your mind and in your heart, like, I'm hurt by this. I don't want it to be hurt by this. So I need to figure out something, whether it's talking to a friend, a family member, talking it over with that person. If it's a safe space to talk about that with, talking to a therapist, just finding a way to talk through it, work through it, and grow from it. The moment you make it up in your mind that you're not going to just sit on that hurt, but you're going to work on healing and growing from it, is I feel like the time that you begin to heal. Now again, I guess I do agree that the longer the harder. Like, if I've given you the past 10 years of my life and now we're no longer together because you betrayed my trust, like, it's a little bit bigger than just whatever was done. It's I've lost time, I've lost experiences, I've lost whatever. You also are mourning whatever you feel like you may have lost from this person betraying your trust.
You said a key word, you said mourning, and I think that's exactly right. Like, we talked about the grieving process. It really is a process. Like, you have to allow yourself to feel all of that emotions. I've met several people, they're like, oh yeah, we're not together. And then you see 6 months later, they're with somebody else. And I'm like, have you even, I mean, to each his own, I guess, but have you even allowed yourself to really like heal from everything? But
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe their way of healing is different than mine.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. All right. So the next question I have for you is, and I'm going to choose my words carefully. Can men handle the type of hurt they put women through?
No, I don't. I don't think so. We live in a society of like boys will be boys. There that women standards that women are held to that men are not. When you start entering those double standard spaces, I don't think so. I think that we are taught to be mindful of men's feelings, and we're taught to, cover up because, there are men around, or wear certain things because there are men around, to consider men at all times. I don't necessarily feel like men are taught to consider women at all times. And so, and that's not relationship wise. That's just like this world is built for men. Like this country on men, what men need, what men want. And we can really go into about that. It's been very structured around men, and it's been a safer space. Not necessarily a safe space for all men, but a safer space for men than it has been for women. And you get a lot of like, don't dress like that, don't wear that, don't act like that. A lady is to be seen and not heard. All of those things that I feel like women are breaking the boundaries on. So no, I don't think that men are prepared to be able to take what they've given. Women are raised to be mindful, and they are not raised that way more times than not. So I don't think so.
Okay. Just curious to see your perspective. I agree. I don't think so either, but I want to be fair and just make sure it's not just me. All right, next question is, do you think you can constantly heal, or should you constantly heal after being hurt? Like, is it an ongoing process?
It's definitely ongoing process. I was with my therapist yesterday, bawling my eyes out because I realized, wow, I'm not over this. Like, I thought I was good. And it's not like it's not something I've been working through. It is, I think, that I haven't been able to wrap my mind around. So it's harder for me to just let it go fully. But I feel like, oh, I've let it go until something happens. So the situation with my fiance, and he did something that triggered a memory from my childhood. And I was talking to my therapist about it, and I was just like, this is what's going on. He's doing this, and it's bothering me, and I just don't like it. And she was like talking to me, and she was like, it's deeper than that. And so like we kind of like talked through it, and again, I ended up boohoo crying because I was just like, oh, that that still hurts. Yeah, I think it is an ongoing process. I think there are things that in areas that you don't even realize certain situations impact that have to kind of bring you back into that healing process again. I don't think it makes you less than because you're still healing from something years later. Soldiers have PTSD, like people have PTSD. It happened. It's stressed. It was traumatic, whatever. Even though you're trying to heal from it, doesn't mean that you'll never bump into it again.
Right.
I do think it's ongoing.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take a look and see here. Can you be friends after a breakup?
Can I or can other people? No.
I mean, hey, can you, can I, can they, can we? Can we be friends after a breakup?
I can't speak for anybody else. I do have an ex who I'm still friends with. Very open with my fiance about anytime we talk or which we don't really see each other ever. But we, do communicate from time to time. We've worked together while was with my partner. So
do that.
It's not a crazy thing in my opinion, but you definitely have to be mindful because you can't be friends with everybody. I have another ex. I don't wish him any harm or any, but I have no desire to chit chat and talk and any of that. Like that's just what it is.
Right.
But it was a process of moving on, but it was also those like, I know that this is not what I want for my future. This is not my forever partner. So any feelings that I once had, I let go of because I was like, this is the person for me. So, I mean, it depends on the situation. If you're not open with your partner about, you still have those feelings and you're lying to yourself about them, or you're not, then no. But I think it's a case-by-case basis and it depends on the person. Now, if you were in a toxic relationship, you don't need to be friends with that ex. Like, come on now, you know better than that. This particular ex, we happened to be best friends before we started dating. So it was kind of like at the root of it, we were friends. We
right.
Were friends. So it was fine in that instance. Again, being very open with my partner, being very open with myself and honest with myself. But it definitely took time. Like after we broke up, we weren't like besties the next day. Right. It's just one of those things that takes time and openness and honesty. But I don't think you can be friends with every ex. I think it's situational.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said, you don't want to go in, you having a pure intention and they are just using it as a way to sneak back in. No.
Yeah,
no. We're not doing that.
At all.
No. So you mentioned, you've been cheated on before you got with your fiance, which is your forever person. So how has that hurt shaped your dynamic with him? Like, how has it opened your eyes? Like, with that person, you're like, oh, I know my next relationship, I'm not putting up with this, or he didn't show me this, but I'm going to show him in this setting.
I think it did a lot of like showing me what I didn't want. I think so. Little backstory. I I wanted my fiance before, and he just was like, oh, I'm not really trying to be in a relationship. But I just knew this was a man. I was just like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have a list, but if I had a list, he would check the boxes.
Okay.
And so I kind of got to vet him and see who he was and how he prior to us even dating. That's why I was repeating the question. I was like, oh man, my story isn't like, oh, we met and were like together. It's kind of more like, oh, we met, we were friends, we were cool, but I was just like, hey, you want to be my man? You know, no.
Okay, push up game.
Oh, we dated for a quick second, and then he was like, I really don't want to be in a relationship. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just go and do me. And then he came to his senses. He was just like, oh, is she not paying me no attention? Yeah. But no, I think to answer your question, I wasn't going to be with anybody who couldn't be honest with me, who was going to hide things from me, who would belittle my feelings. I had an ex and I would tell him stuff and he'd be like, oh, that's nothing, or oh, that's little, or no, that didn't happen. And I had a lot of like, again, being belittled, being lied to. So I was like, I don't want that. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Another guy I dated, some stuff was like as simple as like acknowledging my effort, whether it's what I put on or me going and doing something, like just did a great job, or baby you look good, or whatever the case may have been. And I was able to point out stuff in a relationship that I didn't want. So when I was dating, when I saw those things, I was like, you're not for me. You're not for me. You're not for me. And my partner along the way, we've been able to have conversations. We've been able to talk, even when we were just friends. We talked about what we wanted our marriages to look like, how we wanted to raise our kids. Just talking, just friends talking. And I was able to kind of get a better idea of what he needed in a partner and what I needed in a partner. So yeah, just, I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, you kind of gave us a lot and you touched on like the next 3 or 4 questions. So I'm like, you were on a roll. So with all of that summed up, what were some of those life lessons that you learned in that hurt phase, and how has that shaped the Imani that we see today?
I learned that I allow my love for people to essentially cause me to accept less than I deserve, because I want people to have the best. I want people to have the love that they may not have gotten, or the support that they desire. And I do it, and I realize I do it in friendships, and I'm learning and growing from it to stop doing those things, and putting myself in spaces with people that consider me, that love me, that care, there for me, and stuff like that. But I spent a lot of time doing what made other people feel appreciated or loved or whatever. I accepted the bare minimum. We're not accepting the bare minimum no more. Like, that's not it.
On all levels, not just relationships.
I was looking at a post on Facebook, in one of the Facebook groups, and somebody was looking for a job, and they're like, oh, fast food places are hiring everywhere. And realizing, like, even in growing up, you hear that, like, it's better than nothing. And that being an okay standard for somebody in need. No, if you're in need of love, you don't deserve the bare minimum. If you're in need of a house, you don't deserve the bare minimum. Like, who wants in a place that's not safe, to be in a place that's not safe, that doesn't adequately provide for you because it's better than nothing. I think a lot of times I operated in, because I wanted love so bad, because I felt like I didn't have it or I didn't receive it in the ways that I wanted to receive it fully, I would accept the bare minimum because it was better than nothing. And it ended up causing me more hurt and more pain and more things that I had to heal from and grow through and learn from, and not even realize that how it impacted me, because it was better than nothing. It was better than being alone. Like, hey, yeah, he's unfaithful, but at least I have a man. No, sis.
No.
You deserve better than that. Like, yeah, he, can't find the words to just give me a compliment, but it's better than no. Like, I would do things for people. And again, it's something that I'm still learning to grow from. Doing stuff for people, showing up in ways that I know people wouldn't show up for me, and accepting the bare minimum. Help. I want to feel needed. I want to be desired and all these other things. But again, if there was ever a standard to be raised, my fiance has definitely raised the bar. I learned it's okay to not be okay. I learned that there is somebody who is going to take all of your quirks and all mishaps and all of that stuff and love you regardless. And so if this, God forbid, this don't work out, I ain't never going back. Because it's better than nothing.
Oh my gosh. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. Life lesson of the evening. Don't accept the bare minimum. That's the lesson for this episode. We are no longer accepting the bare minimum. We are no longer overextending. We are going to reciprocate energies or nothing. Right, Imani?
Yeah. And it's as simple as like realizing like, and I don't know what everybody else believes, but I believe in God and the way that God speaks about us in the Bible. I know the plans and the thoughts that I think towards you. I wish above all things that you'll prosper. Like, knowing that the God I serve desires all these things for me means that those are the things that I'm supposed to have. And accepting less than that is accepting less than what God has for me. And that's not okay. Like, that's how you get hurt. And that's how you end up in those situations, because it's not what God would have for you. Right. The people God has to put in your life will be there. The friends, the family members, the partners, or whatever. So we accepting God's standard, and that's it.
Perfectly said. Next question I have for you is, while you were going through those phases in life where you're like, I'm hurting, I'm grieving, I know I need a support system. Did you have one? And if so, who did those people consist of?
I think it depended on the time. I would like to say it was my mom, but for a lot of situations where my mom was so upset that I was hurt by something that it was just kind of like she was frustrated. And sometimes you want somebody to be a little softer with you. So then you start to trauma bond with people. Like, oh, I've been cheated on, girl, I've been cheated on too. Because, this, I'm not going to say the same, but, people would just be like, men ain't anything or whatever. So, you start to trauma bond with people. And I felt like I kind of leaned on those people. Was always able to call my best friends from like high school. One of the lucky people that still has girlfriends from years ago that I can still call it to this day that will have my back. If even in making new friends, close or still friends or whatever, just finding spaces where I felt like I could be myself, or I could grow or learn or meet new people and new experiences. I kind of leaned more on that. Yeah, and then I feel like my church family was also people that I could lean on. So, just the people around me, it just depended on the time in life. But I know I did a lot of like, I'm hurt, you're hurt, okay, we hurt together. Let's go be friends.
Yeah, the trauma bond is real. I actually started to realize what that was like last year before last. I'm like, I'm connecting with all these people, but why? And then when I started to dig deeper, I'm like, you attract what you are. I'm hurting. They're hurting. We're hurting together. But is that still healthy for me? So yeah, you learn to let that go too in your process. So we have two more questions for you, and I'm gonna let you go. The last question I have for you is, what is the best advice that you can give someone, that's going through this phase of hurt or pain right now? What would you tell them? Younger Imani.
What would I tell younger Imani? I guess a couple of things. One would be go to therapy or find a non-biased third party that know anything body to to talk to, where you can have a safe space. Find a safe space, not necessarily your peers, but a safe space to talk through it. Find somebody that can identify the things that are behind the things that you're saying, the things that you're not saying. And then I posted a lot in my business, but it is this saying that honestly don't know where it came from. I feel like God just put it in my heart. But if it came from somebody somewhere else, somebody just, let me know. But it is, girl, don't you know you are loved by God? And I feel like if I had that in my heart and in my mind, not just hearing preaching and kind of letting it wash over me, but never be in my heart and in my spirit, but realizing how much I am loved, I wouldn't have accepted anything less than that. But because I didn't feel good enough, worthy enough, smart enough, pretty enough, whatever the case may have been, I took the bare minimum because I felt like that's what I deserved. And so I would remind myself, younger Imani, that you are loved by God, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that you are perfect in the eyes of God, even when you fail. Like, God is not mad at you. Our pastor says all the time, God is not mad at you. He's madly in love with you. And I think that's what's helped me in my now, going to therapy, remembering who and whose I am, and finding good people, not people that make you feel good, but good people that are going to tell you about yourself, but that are also going to give you a space to be yourself without judging you, that are not going to be sometimey, that are going to match your effort because they are out there, and you don't have to accept the bare minimum. It's okay to be lonely for a season because you're people.
Awesome. I love all of those. And last question is, how can people connect with you? Tell us a little bit more about your business, email, social medias. How can they connect with you if they wanted to reach out?
Awesome. So you can check out my business at www.blackgirlbless.com. Again, that's www.blackgirlbless.com. You can find me on Instagram and partially on TikTok. I'm working on it. Is at black.girl.bless. Again, that's on TikTok and Instagram at black.girl.bless. My email is info@blackgirlblessed.com. Again, I make handmade earrings. I put these together, but I didn't necessarily make the charm. When I got on here, I was like, oh man, I would put on the smallest earrings I have. I meant to have some other ones that are over there, but I make earrings, I make paint boxes, I do paint parties. I just, on my social media, I try to talk about just how I feel. I stopped trying to, excuse me, so sorry. I stopped trying to fit in with the narrative and just kind of posting whatever my heart desires. So yeah, hit me up, comment under a post. I'm very friendly. I don't let everybody into my space, but I'll chit chat with you. So
Yeah, I saw the painting party boxes and I'm like, I gotta get me one and I want some earrings. So I need to get my life together so I can order some stuff from you. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed you. You know, your transparency, I'm sure the viewers will appreciate it, the listeners. And like you said, you know, for that season of loneliness, embrace it because you're not bitter, you're just hurt, right? Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and we will chat again.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. Bye bye.